So welcome everyone to the first show and tell for Keed of 2024. In project terms, we are now in the final few months of the extended alpha phase. So this is running until the end of March, and the team have some updates to share with you. Whilst we did take a break over Christmas, there was lots of activity going on behind the scenes to bring to life the next evolution of what we call the procurement journey. So Warren is going to talk a bit about that in a moment. I would like to kick us off with a little bit of a team update. Then we'll move on to Warren's procurement journey update. There will be a bit about the Keed forward plan that Owen and myself will look at, and then some engagement updates from Emma, my colleague, too. So without further ado, team updates. It is a welcome back and a welcome to a new face for Keed. So the welcome back, those of you who have been involved in the Keed evolution since the kickoff of the alpha stage will remember our colleague Ksenia Szutominska from Kershaw Commercial. So she has returned from maternity leave. She's now in the position of director at Kershaw. So congratulations to Ksenia, and obviously brings that wealth of knowledge from the very early stages of generating the ideas for Keed's service development and design. She's already been in a few meetings, so you'll see her face more and more as we progress over the next few months. And the other team update is to introduce Owen Burgess. So when he speaks a bit later on, he can introduce himself more fully, but Owen is joining us as a Parago colleague and is sitting in the role of delivery lead. So keeping all of us on track, making sure that we hit all those milestones and deadlines that we promise when we come to sessions like this. So that's a very quick team update from me. The meat of the session is going to be the procurement journey update. So without further ado, I will hand over to Warren to tell you what we've been up to in that space.
Thank you, Corey. And by meat, I'm sure you don't mean most economically advantageous tender. Procurement joke. So thank you very much. And firstly, welcome to Owen and welcome back to Ksenia for the record. It's great to have the team expanding and coming back together as originally formed, but that's great. So yeah, as previously trailed, I'll be providing an update on the procurement journey. But first though, for those who may not have been following all developments with Keed, I'm going to just give a brief recap on how we've arrived at where we are today. So if you could have the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So the current procurement journey on the Keed site broadly represents a local version of what the Scottish Government has produced, and this uses the notion of routes to characterise procurements and contracts, be that low value and low complexity, through to above the threshold set by the World Trade Organization's Plurilateral Agreement on Government Procurement, the snappily named, or the WTO GPA as it's easier to refer to. And the procurement journey also includes 3 stages that represent the full commercial life cycle: develop at the pre-procurement stage, tender at the procurement stage, and contract at the post-procurement stage. Now, based on feedback that we received from the Keed user testing community, apart from the WTO GPA thresholds, any notion of a value-based delineation was felt to be somewhat arbitrary. And this is because it couldn't possibly reflect whatever local governance arrangements may be in place across all public sector organisations in Wales. And in parallel, we also had been introduced to what the Cabinet Office are doing in preparation for the new Procurement Act 2023 coming into effect. They've been developing a prototype called the Commercial Lifecycle Toolkit, which has no concept of value-based routes and is defining the commercial life cycle in 4 stages. Next slide, please. So our Keed development site now mirrors these 4 stages. We have plan and define at the pre-procurement stage of the journey, obviously procure at the procurement stage, and manage at the post-procurement stage of the journey. The define square here looks different to the other 3, simply because we're just trying out different approaches to design and styling. And within each of these stages, we've also added references to the procurement and supply cycle that's been developed by CIPS, the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, and with each sub-element mapping to one or more of the 13 steps included in the SIP cycle to guide users through the procurement process. So without the value-based route delineation, the emphasis is now much more on adopting activities to your local context, and also taking approaches that are proportionate to the value, the risk, the complexity, and the profile in general of the requirements that you're looking to take to market. Next slide, please. By no means expecting anybody to read this, but it's just to represent what the Cabinet Office team have also been doing, which is to produce what should be a useful mapping between the specific regulations within the Public Contract Regulations 2015 and the new Procurement Act 2023. We've received their work in progress so far, and we're using just a pivot table here to simplify how we bring together lots of different information in relation to that mapping, and a way of consolidating that data. And based on the number of times that each regulation has been mapped to a sub-element within one or more of the 4 high-level stages. And so we'll make a version of this live at some point, but first and foremost, we just needed to do the analysis. So we're now looking at different ways of presenting what's quite a complex set of information to make this as useful as possible within the Keyed site. Don't worry, we won't be making a pivot table available. I'm sure Corey will have me shot at dawn. So we'll be setting up testing sessions with the community to see what works and what doesn't with this mapping before it's published on the new version of the Keyed site. But fundamentally, moving away from routes allows us to look more generically across the commercial lifecycle and to consider guidance, tools, templates, and other useful artifacts that represent the kind of the useful things to follow or to use at different stages of the procurement journey. Next slide, please. So we're also working closely, we have been for some time, but we continue to, with the Keyed SRO Dave Nicholson's broader team, focused on the elements of the digital action plan for procurement, such as the policy mapping tool and the plans for pipelines, to explore how Keyed can support this work within the new structure of the procurement journey. And actually, it was just 2 weeks ago today, on the 11th of January, that Dave gave a very comprehensive update on this program of work at his latest e-procurement user group meeting. Some of you may have been there, but some may have not. And if you weren't, then don't worry. You can watch the recording of the session, which I would strongly recommend, by accessing this modulously highlighted email address here. So yeah, use this to get in touch with the team and request access to the recording. Yeah, it's worth looking at because it contextualizes Keyed, the procurement journey, and business change within the broader program of work that represents that digital action plan for procurement, which Dave spoke about very comprehensively. So I don't want to steal any of your thunder, Corey, so I'm going to leave it there on the procurement journey, and obviously happy to take any questions at the end, but I'll hand the mic back to you for further updates on this show and tell. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Warren. Yeah, we can take questions in the chat if you have any, or we'll have some time for discussion as usual at the end of this session. Just to pick up on Warren's point about the user testing group. So if you were part of that community, you will have seen some of the regular monthly invitations disappear from your diaries. That's because we're doing a bit of a spring clean on those sessions. And with regards to the procurement journey itself, our plan for this, thinking of the next session, which is about forward planning, is that we will come to you as smaller groups. So if you are interested in a demo of the procurement journey in a development site version, then please let us know, because it means that we can have a more direct conversation with you about what's working in there and what's not. It's kind of like a sneak preview, if you like, before go live, and you are our private beta audience, if you want to use technical terms of that. So I would appreciate that if you are interested in a more one-on-one conversation to let us know. We will still have a group testing environment, but for this purpose, before launch of a new set of features, it's always good to have smaller conversations. So that's a bit of a shout out to how we're planning to do that going forwards. Great. So I am either going to make a huge mistake now and Owen will never forgive me, or do the right thing and ask Owen to introduce himself to you all. And Owen, if you are comfortable giving a bit of an update from your perspective on what the forward plan is looking like, please feel free. And otherwise I can jump in and give a bit of an overview too of what we've been up to before Christmas and into the new year. So Owen, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Corey, and nice to meet everyone. Good afternoon. So my name is Owen Burgess. I've recently joined Parago and I'm excited to be the delivery lead for KEED and this work over the next couple of months. I have some experience in the area. So in a previous role, I worked at Sport Wales and did quite a bit of work on how our procurement processes could be more environmentally considerate. So certainly not a procurement professional, but I understand a bit of the background. So I was just going to give a short overview of some of our objectives really for the next couple of months. And the first one just builds on Warren's points. So you will have seen from the slides that Warren has shared there, we've moved from routes to stages of the procurement journey. And a lot of the team's time over the next couple of weeks will be updating the website that is currently in a development stage to reflect that new content with the intention for that website to then go live. So lots of work behind the scenes, making sure that content is relevant, intuitive, user-friendly, and reflects the stages and more simplified. Once that site is in a position of going live, the second big objective will be to test that with the KEED community. And Corey mentioned there some of the opportunities to get involved. I believe there's a code towards the end of these slides as well, which you can scan to do so. But as ever, anyone who'd like to be part of that user testing group would be brilliant to allow us to get that insight. And the third objective really in our kind of forward plan is to really build the community element of KEED. So the intention was for KEED to be a central place and repository for all things procurement. And absolutely the website has a key place in doing that and hosting those resources, but as does building the community so that it can be a kind of learning-led, supportive community where people can learn from one another. But I shan't dwell on that too much because it veers into the sort of broader engagement plan, which I understand my colleague is going to pick up. So I'll leave it there, but nice to meet you all, and I'm sure you'll be seeing me at future show and tells.
Great, thank you so much, Owen. So I had two agendas, one of them that popped up here that said I was doing that bit, and the one in front of me that said you were. So phew, I'm so glad that was the right thing to do. Thank you so much. And yeah, without further ado, I will hand over to Emma. I will move the slide on for you, Emma, to all things comms and engagement.
Hiya, afternoon everyone. Quick update from me then on where we are and what's going on from a comms and engagement perspective. So I've spent the morning fighting with the inner workings of the KEED website. I think it's still up. I don't think I've broken it, but I have added a load of new training links that have come through to us. I think it's from UK Gov, and there's a Rap Cymru event on there, as well as a booking post for an upcoming annual conferences on there as well. So I've spent the morning adding those. I've also added this morning a case study from EDF. That's there for you to have a look at as well. I'm going to be sharing a lot of the content from there over the next week over into the LinkedIn space. I don't know how many people are aware that we have a KEED Cymru LinkedIn space, but the follower numbers to that space has grown significantly over the last probably 4 months. But what we're not seeing in there is much engagement. There's some likes, some sharing, but the conversation isn't flowing within there. I'm keen to know why. I'm assuming with my own public sector background that we all have the message of sort of not talking about work in a public space, and I completely get that. So one of the things I'd like to do over the coming months is to understand a bit better about how you guys in the procurement space want to network and what levers you want Keed to pull to help expand your networks, or if you've already got networks that are established maybe regionally or by sector. I would like to know maybe how we can take some shared learning from those spaces and sort of move them into other spaces. So you'll be hearing from me over the next couple of weeks around how we can do that. One of the other things we're going to be focusing on a lot in terms of when the site moves on into the next development is the ability to surface more information for you from within the website itself, and looking at how we can bring that into the communication and engagement out to you. So there's a load of content within the website that currently is added and maybe doesn't float to the top for you to find. Procurement reform especially, we've had a load of new content sent over this morning that I'm really keen to get in there and surface. So one of the things we're looking to do in the next iteration of the website is to include a news section, which means I'm going to be able to pull more information out and direct it at you based on some of the conversations that'll be going on nationally, the procurement reform agenda, where we are with that. And so making information much more specific to that point in time or to the conversations ongoing. And what I'd like to be able to do with that as well is link it up to some of these networks, hopefully, that I can identify amongst you and sort of do a little bit of mix and matching to try and make sure that everyone is feeling as supported as possible, or at least if you're feeling a bit lost with the procurement reform world that we're all in at the moment, then I can try and match you up with some support or some good ideas. And as always, I'm really keen to hear from you if you've got suggestions on how you want to see the comms or the engagement developing. If you've got case studies, if you've got blogs, particularly around procurement reform and your work there and net zero, then please get in touch and use the email, drop me a message or contact me via LinkedIn, whichever suits you better. That's it from me, I think, from a whiz through the comms and engagement update, unless there's any questions.
Great, thank you, Emma. So that moves us on to questions, thoughts, feedback. This was a really kind of quick recap of what we've been up to from the end of last year into this start of the year with Keed. So hopefully that's given you a good overview of some of the key areas of focus as we continue to progress with the developments on the Keed website, comms and engagement, and the signposting and partnership side of things. So I'll let you have a minute or two to reflect, and if you've got any questions, feel free to raise your hand or drop them in the chat. Hello, Richard. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Corey. And you'd expect me to come in at this stage, wouldn't you? A couple of questions. So the first one is, can I just confirm what I think I've heard, and that is that the model will change from the current sort of 3-stage threshold-based model to a non-threshold model that would allow quotations up to the GPA thresholds. Added to that is, what are the arrangements that you've got in there for transparency reporting? Because that was, I'm quite happy actually if we're allowing quotes up to GPA thresholds, because that matches what we currently do. But the transparency reporting will be new for us, and I'm interested in how that might work in the context. And before you respond to that question, can I just say as well, with the National Procurement Network, we do have quite a strong network that we would like to coordinate with you on the comms. So if you can just come back to me and we just do what we need to do. But you should know that our commitment to Keed, we're determined to make it work. And you might have me arguing all sorts of things behind the scenes and in the meetings and whatever, but that's not important. What is important is that we make it work. Thanks.
Thanks, Richard. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
And that one for you, I think, Warren, on the journey.
Yeah, happy to. And hi, Richard. Well, hi again. We've already had a call this side of New Year, so I'm not going to wish you Happy New Year again. you're absolutely right. So there's no notion of value, but obviously the WTO GPA thresholds are as set, and actually they were up. The UK thresholds were updated recently by PPN, and I imagine by WPPN. So yes, it's all about kind of taking a proportional approach to your requirements. If it's low value, low risk, you don't need a very, very detailed requirements specification, and to tailor your evaluation criteria accordingly and your contract accordingly. So it's all about that proportionality piece. Transparency. So this is where we see a very interesting opportunity to use the different stages of the procurement journey to tap into, for example, the new noticing regime that's required through the Procurement Act coming in. So, for example, at the post-contract managed stage, as it is now, any of the performance noticing could be done at that stage, and any guidance could be hung off that stage. Equally, with any of the future procurements, the pipelines at the pre-procurement planning stage as well. So, a very useful way of segmenting the different stages of the journey into very specific guidance and requirements that relate to that stage of the journey. And the third piece was around the networking, I think, wasn't it? So, but I think what would be great, Richard, is the conversations that we had recently, including Wayne, around, for example, like the carbon reporting requirements or the commitments around net zero, is how also we could tap that into the different stages and make that relevant and useful and findable for the users of Keed as well. But yeah, any network opportunities that we can leverage to get the messaging out there and to make sure that we are reaching as wide an audience as possible. Absolutely. So I think there's definitely a call for kind of resuming some of those engagements that we had as perhaps as a standing item within the agendas for those meetings. Happy to do that.
Thank you, Warren. Wayne, you have a hand up. I'm going to say Happy New Year to you as well. I'm just going to get them all in before I can't say it anymore.
Happy New Year. It seems a long time ago when I stopped saying that, actually. So thanks very much. And another question, actually, for Warren in relation to the sort of the routes, etc. You may have said it, so apologies. When is that going to that sort of 4-box model going to be available on the website?
There's I don't want to make a commitment because I know we had a conversation recently, literally. I don't mean that I don't want to make a commitment. What I mean is I've said I don't see why that couldn't be the minimum viable version aimed to be published by the end of this sprint, but I need to have a catch up with the team just to see how realistic is that, let's say. But we want to get that live as soon as possible so that we can start to socialize what because it's not just that 4-box. There's a level below that which includes the information, but we want to get that live as soon as possible, and then in time we can start to build in additional material as it becomes available from like the Cabinet Office and the procurement reform team. But yeah, I think I need to have a chat with Owen and Corey about what is possible within this sprint, by which I mean that's up until next Friday, the 2nd of February.
Okay, that's great. It's just that it's good timing for us because we're looking at our process, and I guess I'm keen to do what if that process is there actually on the Keed website. I'm keen to mirror that. The only and I know that you said it's informed by the work the Cabinet Office are doing, but obviously there's certain things that's happening which is slightly different for us in Wales. The use of the SRA, for example, the Sustainable Risk Assessment, is a document which we've used a few times now. We really like it, and we're looking to embed that as a real sort of key component within our process. So I don't know if those nuances of things like the SRA will be reflected in the process detail that you'll be sharing.
Yeah, so that's so while we are looking to what the Cabinet Office are doing to inform, the totality of what we're doing is very much driven by the procurement reform team in the Welsh Government.
Right.
So yeah, so we're looking to the Cabinet Office because there's things that they're doing that we can take and reuse, and that's fine. But yeah, fundamentally, the work of Dave Nicholson's broader program, the Digital Action Plan for Procurement, which includes the policy mapping tool, which I believe is the sustainability risk assessment,
Yeah,
in all but a different name. But that looked very promising when we saw that being presented at Dave's session 2 weeks ago. So if you weren't part of that, do get in touch to have a rerun of that using the recording available. So as part of that, we're also looking at how the developments of KEED and the evolution of what we've been talking about in the procurement journey can link off to those other tools as well.
okay, great, thank you.
I'm just going to check the chat. Yes, comments from Richard there. Thank you, Richard. Okay, any other thoughts or feedback from anybody? Okay, if not, then I will bring this show and tell to a close. As we've said, and I think based on what you've fed back there, Wayne, that opportunity for the kind of soft demo of what's sitting on the development site at the moment with the structure and the content that is specific to the Welsh policy context. So if you would like to have a sneak preview of that, you're welcome to, whilst we work on the finalised timescales for getting something launched and live that will be accessible by all. So please do drop us a note. And I know, Emma, you'll be in touch with Richard and colleagues about networking too. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, sorry, Corey, just to confirm, yeah, absolutely, I'd be delighted to be involved in that and have any sight of that, because that's really good timing for us. So as I mentioned, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, everyone, that's it from us. And we'll be back in a month's time with our next show and tell. So thank you for your time today.